What's up and welcome to FPL Today. I'm your host JNO. Welcome to the channel and welcome to what we learned for Game Week 9, where we look back at Game Week 8 and see what we can learn from the fixtures over the weekend to implement onto our sides to get us the best FPL ranking. And this video is brought to you by Fantasy Football Magazine, the only monthly subscription fantasy football magazine that will be sent to your door if you subscribe every month with some of the best hints and tips from some of the experts in the fantasy football community. So make sure to click the link in the description down below to get your copy sent to your door monthly. So let's start the video, and today we are of course back in familiar territory as we start with the Manchester City game. It didn't happen last week, Manchester City only beating Chelsea 1-0, but they are back to their goal scoring best with a 7-2 victory over Stoke. Manchester City just seem like they can't stop scoring at the moment and are playing very similar to how Barcelona under Pep Guardiola played. And if this continues, if you do not have Manchester City players in your side, this is where your ranking is going to start to fall. Now it could be starting next week Manchester City don't score as many goals as they have been currently, but you can't really ignore their goal scoring threat at the moment with a lot of players that are coming up as the top scoring players in a game week. From early in this game there was a sense of inevitability about City scoring as they opened up their account in the 17th minute when Kyle Walker cuts it back from Gabriel Jesus, a player that a lot of people would have brought in, but it seems a lot of people stayed away purely because of the rumours of Aguero coming back to fitness. The second goal looked exactly like a goal Barcelona would score, with players virtually queuing up to shoot, and Sterling was the one to put it away. Kevin De Bruyne looked absolutely outstanding, finding through balls to all of his teammates and having a great performance, finally showing the form that made me suggest him at the beginning of the game, but unfortunately didn't show it for the first 3 or 4 game weeks. Fernandinho scored an absolutely cracking goal as well, and the whole Manchester City side looked really good. The only downside was the fact that they conceded 2 goals. Kyle Walker managed to get an own goal as well, so there was some downsides to the performance. I don't personally get Fabian Delph as a wing back. He doesn't look convincing there yet, but maybe he will grow into that role. So those of you with Manchester City defenders may have been disappointed, but anyone with Manchester City attackers would have been very pleased with himself. Of course, you can see on my side there the standout players from this game. Raheem Sterling was one of the standout performers, coming in at 8 million at the time of recording this. He got 15 points from 1 goal and 2 assists and 2 bonus points. He had a minute per chance every 30 minutes as well as a chance created every 30 minutes. That's his second 10+ point haul. However, Leroy Sané also at 8.4 million at the time of recording this got 10 points from 1 goal and 1 assist with a minute per chance at 22.5 and a minute per chance created at 45 minutes. This is his third 10+ point haul in Fantasy Premier League. And then we got Gabriel Jesus as well, 10.7 million, one of the cheaper premium strikers in the game. He got 13 points from 2 goals, got 3 bonus points and had a minute per chance at 31.5 minutes, and this is also his second 10+ haul, and this is only 8 game weeks into the season. I personally believe with their easier fixture list coming up now as well, you need Manchester City players in your side. There's also the likes of David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, and many more like Aguero coming back to consider, as well as Manchester City defenders. They have looked really good. Let's not overlook Stoke though, because now Stoke have a very good run of fixtures and they have players like Shaqiri, Choupo-Moting, as well as their defence that can now start picking up clean sheet points. They could have a much better time of it now that they've played some of the tougher teams in the league. The next fixture we're looking at is Southampton versus Newcastle, a 4-goal thriller which ended up 2-2. Now Newcastle have actually looked pretty decent after a rocky start to the season. They look like the side that could be where we get Fantasy Premier League points at a cheaper price. Game started off back and forth between the two sides. Atsu looked particularly dangerous at the beginning, but it was Isaac Hayden who blasted home a half volley from just outside the box. He is currently, I believe, at 4.5 million. If he can continue any sort of form, he might be a great pickup for Fantasy Premier League. But then Southampton had plenty of chances. They kind of stepped up their game. They just didn't take as many as we would have hoped they would have. I know they scored 2, but they could have scored a lot more. Eventually in the second half, Manolo Gabbiadini jumps onto a ball over the top from Redmond and then waits for his chance and eventually tucks it home in the near corner. However, Gabbiadini also scoring a penalty late into the game from a Lejeune tackle on Shane Long. He blasted it top right corner, but we all know Gabbiadini has let us down a lot as far as the Fantasy Premier League aspect goes, so I wouldn't jump on that just yet because I've been burned a couple of times for jumping on that too early. However, Newcastle replied instantly to the first equaliser, Jose Perez showing his potential as a Fantasy Premier League asset by going onto a through ball and then getting onto his own rebound after Fraser Forster saved the first shot and managed to score as well. So some decent options coming out of this game which we can watch. I wouldn't bring any of them in straight away just yet, but Manolo Gabbiadini now dropped down to 6.6 million. If he can show some more consistency, he got 12 points in this game from 2 goals and 3 bonus points with a minute per chance at 45 minutes. The fact that he didn't have that many chances is a little bit worrying, however, and maybe that this game was just a blip. And then you got Jose Perez at 5.4 million. He got 8 points from 1 goal, 2 bonus points and a minute per chance at 31.5 minutes. So there's some options to watch, but I wouldn't necessarily bring anyone from this game in just yet. The next game we have is Watford versus Arsenal. Watford are now flying high after a 2-1 victory over Arsenal. The standout players from this game were Thomas Cleverley, who is starting to look like a very, very good player. Coming at 5 million, he got 10 points from 1 goal and 3 bonus points, with only 1 chance in the 90. However, he did perform very well and could be a bonus point magnet. And then there's Per Mertesacker, who scored the 1 goal for Arsenal with a header with Tom Cleverley man marking him. I'm not sure why Tom Cleverley was put on Per Mertesacker. That was a bit of a mismatch. He got 9 points from 1 goal and a minute per chance at 90 minutes. So that was his only chance, but he put it away very, very well. Arsenal came off of this game with 4 clean sheets, and so they've lost that run of clean sheets now. They started off really well and potentially should have put Watford away a lot earlier, but Richarlison definitely seems like a great option, and Troy Deeney seems to definitely help players like Richarlison get more opportunities by disrupting the defence. Watford now have a great run of momentum behind them, so despite their tough fixtures, I feel like players like Richarlison, Capoue, Cleverley, Decore, Carrillo, Troy Deeney, Andre Gray, they're all options we could be considering for our Fantasy Premier League sides, as they all come in a more friendly price, and it doesn't seem like they're too afraid of playing against some of the bigger teams. We move on to the Crystal Palace versus Chelsea game, another 2-1 upset as Chelsea lost to a side that have failed to win and score until this fixture. And the players that stood out, Bakayoko looked really good for Chelsea despite the fact that his partner Kante was out. However, Zaha was the standout option. At 6.7 million, he's dropped in price because of his injury. He got 7 points from 1 goal, a minute per chance every 30, and a minute per chance created at every 45. And him and Andros Townsend both played up front. Now, if this continues, that's 2 midfielders that are playing far more advanced than a lot of midfielders in the league, and Zaha could be a great option for our Fantasy Premier League midfield. Bakayoko, 9 points from 1 goal, 3 bonus points, and a minute per chance every 45. Maybe watch him to see if there's any chance he can continue this kind of return every like 2, 3 or 4 games, but at the moment it would just be a wait and watch. Fabregas also, if he gets more game time, is definitely capable of getting assists, as we saw from his setting up of Bakayoko. But to be honest, the player that really stood out from this fixture would be Wilfried Zaha. That would be the one I'll be looking at. The final game we're going to look at is Swansea's 2-0 win over Huddersfield, and we had 2 options from Swansea who everyone's kind of been waiting and hoping would start performing. They finally performed today, and that's Tammy Abraham and Tom Carroll. Both teams had their chances, don't get me wrong. However, Tom Ince wasted a very good chance that could have changed the way the game went. However, it was Swansea that managed to take the lead with a terrible mistake by the Huddersfield goalkeeper, which set up an easy assist for Tom Carroll and a goal for Tammy Abraham. And then second half, with Ayew chipping the Huddersfield goalkeeper, Abraham got on the end of it to make sure it went into the net. Tom Carroll, Tammy Abraham and Ayew all look like they could be good assets to the Fantasy Premier League, with Swansea getting a good run of fixtures in the up and coming 5. And we end with the other performers from the games in Game Week 8, and the 2 performers that really stood out. One was Joe Hart, 4.4 million. He's dropped by 0.1 million. He managed to get an assist, which is the first time a goalkeeper's done this since Boxing Day last year. If he'd got a clean sheet as well, he'd have been a fantastic option to have had last game week. He got 3 bonus points as well. He did get a little bit lucky not getting sent off with a dive at the feet of one of the forwards in the game against Burnley. However, he did get a very good return for that game week, and if West Ham can improve their defence, Joe Hart would be a player to look at. And the other one is Christian Eriksen, very close to taking him out myself at 9.7 million. He was the one that stood up for Tottenham Hotspurs and managed to help them get a win at home, despite the fact that players like Kane couldn't put the ball away. Eriksen got 11 points from 1 goal, 3 bonus points. He had a chance every 22.5 minutes and he created a chance every 30. He was the player in that Tottenham game that really stood out and looked like a good option moving on into the future. Anyway guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode as always. If you've enjoyed the video, please make sure to hit that like button for me and hit that notification bell if you want to know when my videos go up and when I go live. Also follow my Twitter at JNOUnited, where I will try every Monday to put up a schedule of when I'm going live. The next live session should be on Wednesday, when you can ask me any question you want about Fantasy Premier League. Also, if you love Fantasy Premier League, consider subscribing to the channel if you're new. I've been JNO, this has been FPL Today, and remember, it's all about the game.